Hello and welcome into the Bear Down Buzz podcast. I am joined by Joe Grassano. Isaac is on vacation, so he will not be joining us this week. But Joe, I think me and you are wanting to kind of preview this week one matchup, Caleb Williams' NFL live debut against the Tennessee Titans. So if you want to kind of get into it, give me your general thoughts on this matchup.
So, my general thoughts on this matchup. I think it's going to be the best case scenario for the Bears in week one. I think it's going to be a win. We'll talk a little bit more about why, but I think they match up very well against the Titans. Titans are like the Bears with their quarterback situation. Will Levis is a rookie. He played 9 games last year, but they're still trying to figure out what they have with Levis. We hope we have something good with Caleb. We'll see throughout this season. We all think we do, though. And then the Titans also rebuilt their team in free agency this offseason. They added a bunch of players. They added Calvin Ridley at receiver. They added Jamal Adams, Chidobe Awuzie, and Quandre Diggs and L'Jarius Sneed via trades and the free agency this offseason. So they have a whole new team, which, it's a good thing for them because they weren't very good last year, but it's going to take them time to, gel and become one. So who knows what you're going to see in week one this week, but that's what we're here to talk about. So, well, what are your thoughts about the game in general?
So I think we are kind of on the same page when it comes to this matchup. I think defensively, Tennessee, their strong point, and I'm sure you agree with this, is the defensive line, adding Devondre Sweat, the rookie in the draft, alongside Jeffrey Simmons. That inner defensive line that they have might give the Bears fits, but we have seen somewhat of consistency in that middle offensive line for the Bears throughout training camp. I believe it was reported today, and we'll get into more injury reports and that kind of thing, but I believe Ryan Bates is now somewhat healthy going into week one, so that's a huge plus, even if he doesn't start. That's a guy that can fill in at center or right guard, depending on, you never know how a game's going to go, but that I think will be one of the biggest battles throughout this week one matchup, and it may be the factor that decides how this game goes. I think the Bears match up well against the Titans offensively versus defensively. Obviously, we have a great defense, and I think it's going to be a key factor, but we added all this new talent on offense, and each of our receivers has a different skill set that complements each other. So I think we're going to see a lot of downfield shots. I know it's Caleb Williams. He's a rookie, and this is going to be his first live NFL regular season debut. And you don't want to force too much on a rookie at once, but the safety room for Tennessee doesn't impress me all that much. I think we're kind of on the same page when it comes to Jamal Adams. He is what once was safety rather than what he is now. Quandre Diggs, I think, isn't a bad safety, but I wouldn't call him a star-studded safety in this league. So I think we are going to see the Bears push it downfield in this game while still establishing the run with DeAndre Swift. But I think it bodes well for the Bears offensively. So that's kind of my general thoughts on this matchup.
I would agree with you, especially on our interior defensive line point against our interior offensive line. I think the biggest X factor in this game for the Titans is going to be how Jeffrey Simmons plays and how the Bears are able to stop him, because Simmons is a beast, and everybody knows that. I mean, he doesn't get as much credit as he deserves because of Aaron Donald. For the past, decade, Donald's been the star of the league. Now he's retired. I think Simmons is going to get a little bit more respect from just the general media now because there's no Aaron Donald. But yeah, we need to make sure to stop Simmons, double team him, chip him with John Spencer running back, whatever. Just don't want to beat to Caleb, because if he gets to Caleb's going down. We know that for a fact. I mean, Caleb's good at escaping, but he's just a beast. You're not gonna stop him. So that's gonna be the most important matchup, at least on the Bears offensive side. What are your thoughts?
I completely agree with you. I think we both agree on the inner defensive line versus inner offensive line conversation. One thing that I think is also going to be a big factor, we've seen Caleb Williams develop in these last few weeks of training camp, and this coaching staff has put an emphasis on him getting the ball out quicker, and you have seen it pay dividends because not to over explain Hard Knocks, but you saw that edited clip of them going through his practice reps, and he was getting the ball out on time and quick within the first 1 to 2 seconds of the ball getting snapped. So I think it was something that Williams kind of struggled with during his college years. But I think we've seen in a short amount of time him kind of develop that NFL speed. And obviously it's we'll have to see come week one if it does translate to a regular season game. I do think it will. So even with the pressure, presumably if it came from the inside, with Tavondre Sweat and Jeffrey Simmons, if Caleb can get the ball out on time to his talented receiver room and dump off some quick screens to DeAndre Swift and Herbert, whoever it is, then I think we're going to be in good shape. And I think with Tavondre Sweat, you know, college prospects always show out, especially on the defensive line, but we don't know exactly if his talent is going to translate to a regular season game. So it may be the Bears offensive line versus Jeffrey Simmons in week one. And Sweat may be a non-factor. Obviously, we can't count on that, but you can never really just bank on a rookie coming out the gates swinging.
Yeah, I mean, we are also aware that with Austin Booker, I mean, it's different because he was picked later, but like we don't know what we're gonna get out of Booker in the regular season. We're hoping that he, gets a couple sacks and produce some heat off the edge and third downs, but we don't know. Speaking of the defensive line, though, I think that's defensively the biggest X factor against the Titans because Titans offensive line is brand new this year. They drafted J.C. Latham. They have Peter Skronsky from last season. They brought in the new center, Lloyd Cushenberry. Dylan Radins wasn't supposed to start, but he's starting now because their guard unexpectedly retired in the offseason during training camp. And then at right tackle, they have Nicholas Petit-Frere, who isn't like elite. He started last year. He wasn't great. He was okay, but wasn't anything special. So he's probably most likely going to be going up against, I think, Montez. So Latham will be going up against the rotation of Booker, Darnell Taylor. Yeah, he'll be going up against the rotation, the defensive line rotation. So who knows how the Kings line is going to perform if they could protect in week one Will Levis against this, be a Bears defensive line that you don't know what you're going to get out of it. That'd be good, but it can also go the complete opposite way, where this Bears defensive line, who that was not good last year, just completely dominates a Titans offensive line that's trying to build the chemistry for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I'm completely with you. It's a brand new, pretty much everything for Tennessee, especially on the offensive line. One thing I think that will make a difference for us to be able to make pressure on this new look offensive line for Tennessee is whether or not the Gervon Dexter hype has come to fruition. If everything that we've seen in training camp translates to this week one matchup, and I think it will because you've seen it as well as me. All the clips and all the pictures of him having slimmed down, built up muscle, the get off is quicker. I think they put an emphasis on him batting down passes at the line. So that's something to keep an eye on because I think the NFL conversation around Will Levis, I think that people kind of need to pump the brakes when it comes to him. Not that I don't think he's a talented or can be a talented quarterback. The guy has a cannon. He can sling it downfield. It's just a matter of him getting those mental reps. And I don't know if he has the accuracy that top end quarterbacks do. I don't know if he has the ability to read a defense like top fleet quarterbacks do. But it's again, it we'll see come week one. But I like the Bears secondary's chances as well as our front seven against that new look offensive line, as well as the quarterback there in Tennessee.
I like the Bears secondary against the Titans receivers too. There is one Titans receiver that I want to key in on, because they signed Calvin Ridley this offseason. Now, some people that I talked to that are Bears fans wanted the Bears to sign Calvin Ridley. I was against that because Ridley, I don't know if you know this, he only caught 55% of his passes last year as a wide receiver one. Isn't good. I mean, I don't think he's a bad receiver. You just, as a one, you have to catch more than that. Even some of the two wide receiver twos that looked at, or wide receiver threes, caught like 60% of their passes. So like being under 60% is crazy for a wide receiver one. Now, Ridley does have the speed to make defenses pay. And, it was his first year back from suspension. So maybe he'll be better this year. But I'm not really scared of Ridley in terms of if he's a high volume receiver against the Bears, especially because we don't know if Hopkins is going to play. If he's going to be their high volume receiver, who knows how many catches he's actually, balls is actually in the catch. What do you think about Calvin Ridley?
I think we kind of have the same opinion of Calvin Ridley. I don't think he is a bad receiver. I think if you can put him in a back end wide receiver two, wide receiver three role, he can flourish in an offense. But that's the great point about DeAndre Hopkins, who, judging from this injury report, and we can kind of transition into that too later on. But it seems he has been limited all week, especially on, it says on Wednesday and Thursday he was limited in practice. So if you have to count on Calvin Ridley to be your number one for week one, again, I like our secondary's chances because Calvin Ridley is not going to have a good game on Jalen Johnson if he's the number one. Tyler Boyd, I like Tyreek Stevenson's chances of guarding Tyler Boyd, as well as the other receivers they've added to that team. I like the matchup a lot in our secondary, and I don't think you're going to be able to throw deep on this Bears team with the addition of Kevin Byard and an advancing Jaquan Brisker in the secondary, as well as Kyler Gordon in the nickel slot. So I think the Titans' best chances for success is going to be on the ground because this Bears defensive line, aside from Montez Sweat, is pretty unproven. But overall, I think the Titans' best chance for success is going to be on the ground because once again, that Bears defensive line is unproven. I do have faith in it, but we need to see it out on the field. And once again, I think the Titans' run game will be the way to go about it if they want a chance at success against this Bears team.
Yeah, I do. I sort of agree with that. I mean, the Bears the past couple years have had a really good run defense, so I don't know if that's going to change this year, but I hope it doesn't. Uh, I guess we'll just have to see on Sunday against the Titans. But I think it's time to move into the injury reports now. There's a couple key injuries for both teams. We already mentioned Andrew Hopkins for the Titans, but on the Bears side of things, the past couple days, Keenan Allen has missed practice with a heel injury. He's been limited. And Montez Sweat has missed practice with a toe injury. He's been limited. Now, we kind of already knew, if you've been listening, you kind of already knew that Keenan Allen, his heel has been acting up. He hurt his foot last year with the Chargers, and that's why he got shut down for the whole season. But I think the hope is that he just toughs through it and plays on Sunday against the Titans. I think the same could be said with Montez. I think both of them will play. I mean, if they don't, those are two big hits to the team. And then we had a new injury pop up on our report today for DeMarcus Walker, who was limited in practice today with the groin. So who knows if he's gonna play? I mean, hopefully all these guys play who are limited right now. But if trends show you anything, then it's probably not likely that everybody that's limited plays in the game on Sunday. What are your thoughts on this Bears injury report and also the Titans?
The only one that would halfway concern me for the Bears obviously would be Montez Sweat because the defense does not run without him. He's the motor at this moment. Of course, once again, unless Gervon Dexter comes along nicely. But without Montez Sweat right now, I'm not super confident that our defensive line can get pressure. It's a lot of we've got a lot of players that are coming along, I guess is the way to put it without Montez Sweat. The other injury report citing that kind of would concern me, as you kind of said, is Keenan Allen. But again, as you said, throughout the years into a receiver's career that they're older, that these things just tend to happen. I do agree that I do think he'll play. But aside from that, on the injury report, nothing else really sticks out to me. DeMarcus Walker is a pretty big rotational piece in this defensive end room, but I do think we can be okay without him if he weren't able to go. But that's really it for the Bears side of things. And obviously for the Titans, I think D-Hop is the biggest one. Aside from that, they do look decently healthy outside of Jamal Adams, who you and I both don't think is a key factor in this matchup, but Titans fans might. but DeAndre Hopkins, I think, is the big one for them.
D-Hop's definitely the biggest one. We don't think Jamal Adams is a big factor. I mean, the Titans obviously do because they paid him, but he hasn't really been much besides a run stuffing guy who also likes to hit the quarterback. So he's the only other big name on their injury report. Moving on now, let's do score predictions. So, what do you think the score of this game is going to be?
It's always difficult to predict a score for week one because every team kind of seems like they're in a new headspace and their offensive philosophy changes from last season. But I do expect the Bears to kind of come out swinging and kind of showing the league what Caleb Williams is capable of. I think there in that first half, you're going to see a lot of the run game, but there will be some occasional shots downfield, like we mentioned earlier. The Titans, you kind of differed with me on the run game, which is completely acceptable. Like I'm a pretty big fan of Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears. So I do think the Titans are also going to try to get their run game going. I think this Bears secondary holds that receiver room accountable. And there in that first half, I think you're going to see the Bears dominate the time of possession while also taking some shots downfield. But I do think we see some rookie struggles from Caleb Williams, maybe not anything that's catastrophic. But I'm going to go something along the lines of Bears 24, Titans 14.
I agree with literally everything you said. You don't know what you're going to get with offenses in the first week. But I do agree with you. I think the Bears are going to come out swinging. I think they're going to put points up early and not look back. And then the defense is going to be able to slow down the Titans offense. And the Titans aren't going to be able to score a lot. I actually have it 1 point lower than you. I have it 24-13 Bears. But, this is my official score prediction. But it could also, end up 2017, 21-17. It could end up like that. It could end up really close, but I think it's going to be a bigger margin because I think the Bears roster is just overall better than Tennessee's roster.
No, I'm with you. I think this is one of those games to where you feel like the Bears left points on the board, but at the same time you saw enough from the offense to be happy. And I think just week one for everybody in the league is kind of a shake the rust off game. I do expect this defense to come out like it did at the end of last year, but I do think we see some mishaps here and there and perhaps some takeaways that should have been had. I know we've seen Jalen Johnson drop a few picks and a few other members of this Bears secondary to drop some gimmies. So that's where my headspace is at with that. So I think the Bears leave points on the board. So this could easily be a 27-13 or 14 game, or a game that should be a 27-10 type of game. But I do think it'll be closer than it should be in week one.
I get that. I just hope we don't have another week one like last year where everyone thought we were going to smoke the Packers and we just did not look like a good team. I mean, that shouldn't happen because Caleb Williams is better than Justin Fields, he just is. And two, the defense just looks a lot better than they did last year, the beginning of the year. They look better through the preseason. It looks like they might be a blitzing team. You can't really take what you see in the preseason as what they're going to do, but they did blitz a lot more in the preseason. So hopefully we'll see if that carries over into the Titans game. But even if it doesn't, like you said, and like we both said, the Bears have a really good shot at winning this game by a large margin.
I'm completely with you. I think this is a game that isn't a must win, but at the same time, it's one of those games for as difficult as our schedule is in the back half. We have to get this game to be able to get on a roll before we get into the difficult part of the schedule.
I think that's going to wrap this episode up. Thank you guys for listening to the Bear Down Buzz podcast this week. And you can find us on Twitter. Yeah, see you later.